What's up everybody, I'm HoopsandHipHop. So a couple weeks or so ago, I made a video ranking every current gym leader and trial captain in Pokemon from worst to best in my own opinion, and well, that video was fun to do and it was kinda interesting, I guess you could say, to see everyone's reaction to my own personal rankings, but since I decided to do the gym leaders, I thought I might as well go ahead and do the Elite Four and champions as well. Of course, once you beat all of the gym leaders in a Pokemon game, your next and final task is to beat all of the members of the Elite Four as well as the champion in order to become the champion of a Pokemon League yourself. And in today's video, I am going to be ranking all of the Elite Four and champions in terms of how much I enjoy their character from worst to best in my own opinion. Now, just like with the gym leader video, this list has nothing to do whatsoever with how strong the Elite Four and champions actually are, and instead is based solely on their character, their backstory, any interesting little tidbits of facts and trivia that they might have, and their character design in general. And this is totally an opinionated piece, so if you agree or disagree, that is totally fine. Definitely let me know your own thoughts and your own rankings in the comments below. But with all of that being said, why don't we go ahead and check out my list. Here is my ranking of every Pokemon champion and Elite Four member so far from worst to best. Now, as of the recording of this video, there are currently 38 Elite Four and Champion members total, so not nearly as many people to go over as there were gym leaders, but still a bunch, so why don't we go ahead and just dive right in. At number 38 at the bottom of the list, we have Marshal, and the reason why I put Marshal here is because he's basically a ripoff of Bruno. As you probably know, Black and White borrowed a lot of similar elements and was heavily inspired by Red and Blue, and even though this is mostly contained to the Pokemon themselves, it is pretty easy to see how Marshal is a pretty one-to-one parallel of Bruno, and that's why he kind of ends up on the bottom end of the list, because there just really isn't any creativity there. At number 37 on the list is Lucian, and the reason why he is so low on the list is because the Sinnoh Elite Four in general are just very forgettable to me, and given that this guy is the last and final member of the Elite Four, he should at least have some type of kind of memorable quality to him, but to me personally, he doesn't. He's kind of a very lackluster final Elite Four member, so that's why he's in at number 37. Speaking of the Sinnoh Elite Four, at number 36 we have Aaron, and very similar to Lucian, I just find Aaron to be a rather forgettable character. I will give him props for being an Elite Four member who trains bug types, that's rather cool, but other than that, yeah, he has like absolutely nothing going for him in my opinion. At number 35, we have Sebold, and even though I think it's cool that Sebold took the role of a chef to kind of make him stand out a little more, in the world of Pokemon training, that isn't really going to get you that far, and unfortunately, Sebold doesn't really have anything else going for him. At number 34 is Iris, and Iris was actually on the gym leader list as well for her role as a gym leader in Pokemon Black and White, but the same reasoning as was given there is going to be given here for why she is so low on the list, and that is because she is insanely annoying in the anime, like, oh my gosh. At number 33 is Trace, and simply put, Trace just does not live up to the character that he was trying to replace in Blue. However, with that being said, I do have to give him some credit for, and spoiler warning if you haven't played Let's Go yet, adding the Cubone from Lavender Town to his team, because that was a very wholesome and a very awesome addition to the storyline in the Let's Go games. In at number 32 is yet another member of the Sinnoh Elite Four, and that would be Flint. Now, I mean, I guess Flint is kinda cool. He's got a cool afro, and he's friends with Volkner, so that gives him a little bit of backstory, and he's got a brother named Flint, so that's also cool, but aside from that, I mean, that just isn't enough to put him high on the list in my own opinion. And on top of that, in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, he had like one fire-type Pokemon despite being a fire-type Elite Four member. Like, come on, dude. At number 31 is Drezna of the Kalos Elite Four, and even though she does have that grandma type of character going for her, and it is cool to see that type of character in a dragon type trainer, I mean, she's kind of a shallow sort of character other than that, doesn't really have a whole lot going for her, hence her lower position on the list. Getting into the top 30 is Molayne, and even though Molayne doesn't really have a whole lot going for him as well, he is the PC storage system administrator administrator for the Alola region, so seeing that type of character also be an Elite Four member is cool. Plus, he provided a very much needed addition to the Elite Four in Alola, since most of the characters in the original Sun and Moon were just recycled from various island trial captains and kahunas, which I thought was a terrible idea. And rounding off the Sinnoh Elite Four, at number 29 we have Bertha. You know, I was not kidding about not really liking the Sinnoh Elite Four that much, but Bertha is my favorite of the bunch because, like Drezna, she has that grandmother type quality, and I think she pulls off the grandma aesthetic very well. I would very much like to go over to her house for some cookies or something, but in terms of a Pokemon trainer, I mean, yeah, just not the best. At number 28 is Will of the Johto League, and even though I don't really dislike Will at all and I think he's a fine Pokemon trainer and character, he is technically the weakest Elite Four member thanks to the rather skewed leveling of the Johto game, so I mean, I kinda had to take that into consideration, and there are other Elite Four and champions that I like a whole lot more. In at number 27 is Sydney of the Hoenn Elite Four, and he is very much like Will in terms of my reasonings, but I gave him the edge over Will simply because I like his kind of roughneck sort of exterior. I think that's a somewhat interesting character design, plus on top of that, he got a very much needed and upgraded redesign in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. At number 26, we have Diantha, and even though Diantha does have the defining character trait of being a movie star in addition to a Pokemon champion, I think most would agree with me that she's probably the most unimpressive champion that we have seen to this date, not to mention the easiest to defeat as well. At number 25 is Healy, and even though Healy could only get so far for her very brief appearance in the Gen 7 games, I did have to give her some major props for being a very much needed breath of fresh air into the Elite Four as the only member of the Elite Four in Sun and Moon that was not a recycled character from earlier in the game. Like, thank goodness they did not do that to the entire Elite Four because it's already bad enough as it is. At number 24 is Wickstrom, and he makes it this far for the fact that he is literally right out of the Renaissance. Not only does he wear a complete suit of knight's armor, which is extremely hard to do considering how heavy that stuff is, but also he speaks like he's right out of the Middle Ages, and that definitely makes him very memorable in your mind, even if he's not that hard to defeat in battle. At number 23 is Olivia, and even though, like I've said earlier, I absolutely hate the Alola Elite Four for recycling so many characters from earlier in the game, Olivia gets some major props from what I understand actually falling for Brock in the anime and giving him his first legitimate girlfriend, at least it seems like. I don't really follow the anime, but from the memes it kind of seems like he's got her under his spell, so thank you Olivia for giving our boy Brock some love. You get the number 23 spot. At number 22 is Hala, and once again he has the same problem that all of the Alola Elite Four members do, but I will give him a little bit of credit for kind of being that grandfatherly kind of mentor figure throughout the game, plus he is the grandfather to Hau as well, so that gives him kind of a little bit of extra character and backstory, so that gets him up to number 22. At number 21 is Grimsley, and just based strictly on outward appearance, Grimsley is probably the coolest member of the Unova Elite Four, but he does also get some props for appearing in Pokemon Sun and Moon with a slick new redesign as well, and thanks to a bit of his concept art from Pokemon Sun and Moon, some questions about the Pokemon timeline and how much time sits in between each game was able to be answered as well, which is a very welcome piece of information to have in the Pokemon fan community, especially amongst YouTubers and theorists. Breaking into the top 20 is Glacia of the Hoenn Elite Four, and I know I'm probably in the minority here in terms of how much I like Glacia, because she doesn't really have anything dynamic about her that makes her stand out, but I have really grown accustomed to liking her a lot recently, ever since I noticed that she actually looks a lot like a younger version of Agatha, especially in her original Ruby and Sapphire art. Like, she literally looks like a young version of Agatha, and I like to believe in my own headcanon that there is some type of connection there, even though there probably isn't. At number 19 is Hao, and yes, I am counting Hao as a champion, because even though some people like to say he's not technically a champion, and Kukui for that matter is not technically a champion, you know what? They do play that role in the game as the final trainer that you have to beat in order to become a champion yourself, so yes, I am counting them as a champion, and if you don't like that, well, sorry, too bad, it's my list. Anyways, at number 19 is Hao, because I really do appreciate the fact that they decided to return to the rival character being the final champion, and I do really appreciate Hao making strides in terms of his aggressiveness and his strength throughout the story of Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, but once again, just like Trace, he didn't really live up to the role of Blue that he was trying to emulate, which only got him so high on the list. At number 18 is Caitlyn, and even though Caitlyn isn't my favorite Elite Four member clearly, she does have a very interesting dynamic going for her in that even though we saw her as an Elite Four member first in Black and White and Black and White 2, she was actually seen as a character before this in the Battle Frontier of Pokemon Platinum, Heart Gold, and Soul Silver, and she was actually significantly younger as well, and to kind of see this type of growth in a character to the point where they not only age, but kind of progress as a trainer as well is just a fascinating sight to see that is always welcome in any Pokemon game. At number 17 is Wallace, and he gets his ranking for very much the same reason that Caitlyn got hers. No, he is not my favorite character on this list by any stretch of the imagination, but he does get some major credit for being one of those characters that went from a gym leader to a member of the Elite Four, or in this case, a champion. Like I said with Caitlyn, I really appreciate that kind of in-game character progression and getting to see it from one game to the next, where in Ruby and Sapphire he was a gym leader, but then in Emerald he was a champion, was really cool, and I really love when they do that with characters in Pokemon, so that gets him this high on the list. At number 16 is Chantal, and I've always just really been a fan of Chantal's design. I also really like how she is a bookworm and an author as well. I think that goes really good for a Ghost-type gym leader, especially like her room. I think her room in the Elite Four, the Pokemon League, is awesome as well. And if you're asking why I rank her so high for that when I ranked Lucian so low for basically being the same type of character, well, in my opinion, Lucian is an example of how not to do that type of character, whereas Chantal is the perfect example of how to do that type of character well. In the top 15, we have another Ghost-type Elite Four member, and that would be a Sorolla. Now, I really fell in love with a Sorolla's design and character right from the get-go because she just kind of has such a happy-go-lucky type of personality, despite the fact that she is supposed to be kind of a morbid Ghost-type trainer. She also just has a really youthful spirit to her that I really appreciate, and even though we did see her earlier in the game before we saw her as an Elite Four member, which I said I hate previously, at least with her we hadn't battled her before, so we at least got something new brought to the table when we challenged her as an Elite Four member. Holy cow, it looks like we've got a cluster of Ghost-type Elite Four members here, because at number 14 is Phoebe of the Hoenn Elite Four. I've always really liked Phoebe very much for the same reason I like a Sorolla, because she has such a happy-go-lucky, bubbly personality, which is kind of interesting to see for a Ghost-type trainer. However, the other thing that makes Phoebe so memorable is that she not only stands out in this regard, but she also stands out because of her attire. Nothing about her whole getup and her costume and her character design suggests that she is in any way a Ghost-type gym leader, which I think is really refreshing and obviously makes her stand out and makes her stick in your mind a lot more, which got her the number 14 position on my list. At number 13 is Koga, and much like Wallace, Koga also made his jump to the Elite Four from one game to the next. He obviously started as a gym leader in Pokemon Red and Blue, but then when Gold and Silver came along, he was a member of the Elite Four, and he was the very first character to do this, showing us that visible improvement amongst NPC trainers like this was actually possible, and it provided a whole new dynamic to his character as well. Also, on top of that, upon making the move to the Elite Four, Koga also left the Fuchsia City Gym under the care of his daughter Janine, which just added one more wrinkle to his already very cool character, which got him the number 13 spot on my list. In at number 12 on my list is Alder, and even though Alder kind of gets overlooked and in my opinion is vastly underappreciated as a Pokemon champion, I think he is absolutely awesome. Everything from his character design to his encounter theme to the team that he has to the role that he plays in the story of Black and White made me absolutely fall in love with him from the very first time that I encountered him. I think the reason why he gets overlooked a lot of the time is because you can't actually battle him within the main story of the game despite him being the Pokemon champion because of the whole Ends Castle Pokemon League invasion debacle that happens right there at the end, and instead you have to wait until you re-battle the Elite Four to challenge him properly. With that being said though, Alder has everything else going for him in my mind and is easily one of the coolest Elite Four and champion members that we've ever seen. At number 11 is Malva, and Malva ever since she was introduced has always been one of my favorite Elite Four members. She has a very interesting kind of storyline going for her where she was once at one time a member of Team Flare, and this is something that we have never seen before in a Pokemon game or seen since, where a member or a former member of the evil team of the region was actually a member of the Elite Four. So she definitely gets a bunch of points for that, but on top of that she's also a journalist as well, and that goes back to each member of the Kalos Elite Four having a distinct character trait like I talked about earlier. And on top of that, given that she is a fire type trainer, she is also a rather spicy individual, so definitely deserving of that number 11 spot. Now we break into the top 10, and at number 10 we have Bruno. Bruno makes it this far onto the list simply because he is one of only 2 Elite Four or Champion members that we have ever seen that has actually been a part of 2 different Pokemon leagues, being a part of the Kanto Pokemon League as well as the Johto League. Now, I know some people are going to try to say, well, actually, Kanto and Johto share a league, so technically it's not 2 leagues, it's only 1. Well, guess what? Bruno was an Elite Four member in Generation 1, and he was an Elite Four member in Generation 2. This is not some game-to-game aspect that we talked about earlier with characters like Wallace or even Iris, for instance. We're talking about 2 completely separate generations, and Bruno was an Elite Four member in both of them. So give this guy credit where credit is due, because like I said, this has only been done by one other person ever besides him, and he deserves it. Plus, he's like really buff as well, and I'm pretty sure he could beat the crap out of me, so yeah, he gets number 10. Coming up at number 9 is Drake, and boy oh boy do I love Drake. Now, not to use Lucian as a punching bag here, but I'm going to bring him up one more time just to illustrate why I like Drake so much. When I was talking about Lucian, I mentioned that despite the fact that he is the final member of the Sinnoh Elite Four, he wasn't really memorable and didn't really provide any sort of intimidation factor or wow factor that really stuck him in my brain. Well, Drake of the Hoenn Elite Four as the final member of that Elite Four did the exact opposite. Not only does he use the Dragon type, which is by default very intimidating in its own right, especially pre-Generation 6 and the Fairy type, but he's also this Bamf mofo sailor guy that doesn't even wear a shirt despite the fact that he's probably 60 plus years old, and he's looking pretty good doing it obviously. So there's just nothing about Drake that doesn't scream respect or strength or intimidation, and that's why I absolutely love him as an Elite Four member, because he personifies what the Elite Four are supposed to be, and that is strength, intimidation, and just the pinnacle of Pokemon training. At number 8 is Lorelai, and boy oh boy could I go on and on about Lorelai. First off, she is the very first member of the Elite Four that was ever able to be battled in the entire franchise. She might have not been your first Elite Four member that you battled, but she was the very first one that was challengeable overall for the Pokemon series, and that makes her pretty significant. On top of that, she's also very significant for the role that she plays in the anime, and she is also really cool in the fact that she plays a little bit more of a role in Fire Red and Leaf Green. We get to learn that she lives on the Sevi Islands, and that gives her some backstory as well. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that she isn't an absolute waifu, because I mean, come on, she's a waifu, so let's give credit where credit is due. She number 8. In at the lucky number 7 is none other than Professor Kukui, and I know I might ruffle a few feathers putting someone who technically isn't a champion this high on the list, but like I said with How, as far as I'm concerned, he is the freaking champion of Pokemon Sun and Moon. Like I said with How, after you beat the Elite Four, Professor Kukui is the person that you battle in order to become champion, so in effect he plays the role of the Pokemon champion in those games, even if he technically doesn't have the title. The reason why I really like Professor Kukui as a Pokemon champion though is because he is also the professor of the Alola region. Pokemon professors are not supposed to be this good at Pokemon battling. That's just not the role that they have taken in the Pokemon games. So to see that kind of thing was just fantastic in general, and it makes it even more fantastic when you consider that it's probably a reference to the original Professor Oak battle that was left out of the original Red, Green, and Blue game. So not only was this a fantastic feature, it's also very likely a very nice reference as well, and frankly, if I did not have this spoiled for me on YouTube like a week before the games came out, like seriously, if you leak a game, just don't do it, just don't. But anyways, if I did not have this leaked for me, it's likely that Kukui would be even higher because I like the idea of him as a champion that much. Coming up at the number 6 spot is none other than Steven Stone. Now, very much like Drake, Steven kinda had that aura of intimidation and strength when he was the Pokemon champion in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. But even though he was not the champion in Pokemon Emerald and was replaced by Wallace, he somehow managed to take it up a step further, being the final boss character who is technically even stronger than the champion in that game. And up to that point in Pokemon Emerald, we had only ever seen that type of character role being filled by none other than Red, who is considered by many to be the greatest Pokemon trainer of all time. And if you are that type of a character who can not only call yourself a Pokemon champion, but can also put yourself in the same category as Red, arguably the greatest Pokemon trainer ever, that is going to get you extremely high on any list. And we are finally into the top 5 with Agatha. Agatha makes my top 5 for a number of different reasons. Number 1, she is a very strong Elite Four member, being the 3rd out of the 4 that are available to challenge in Kanto. Number 2, she is a very intimidating old woman because not only is she very grouchy, but she's very aggressive as well. And number 3, she has that amazing little bit of backstory with Professor Oak where they were once rivals when they went on their Pokemon journey. And even though it's only very briefly touched upon, fans have gone wild with speculation and ideas as to what their journey could have been like and what could have been the reason for their inevitable falling out. It's an absolutely fascinating idea, and when you couple that with the fact that she's just a pretty challenging opponent in general, makes her all the more deserving for the number 5 spot. Now, at number 4, and I'm not really sure how many heads I'm going to flip with this, but I have Cynthia. Now, Cynthia obviously always tops these type of lists, and even though I really like her as well, given that she's number 4, the reason why she isn't number 1 on my list, or even in the top 3, is because I didn't really fall in love with her the way everyone else seemed to do. Yes, she is a very cool character. Yes, it is very cool to see her involved in the storyline and the plot of Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. Yes, she is a very challenging Pokemon champion, and even though, yes, I'm very aware that she is a major Pokemon waifu, I just didn't fall head over heels for her like everyone else seemed to do. I am not taking anything whatsoever away from Cynthia. I am simply saying that there are a few more Elite Four and Champion members that simply had a little bit more of an impact on me than Cynthia did when I played through Generation 4. Up next at number 3 is Lance, and I feel like some people are going to try to get after me for ranking Lance ahead of Cynthia when Lance is technically the weakest Pokemon champion in terms of levels. However, even though that is technically true, he's not really the weakest because he only has those levels to accommodate the 2-region mechanic of Gold and Silver and their remakes. And on top of that, obviously your levels as the player are going to be comparable to his, so that kind of point in terms of his strength is null and void. In addition to that, even though I wouldn't call it nostalgia, I did first play through Gold and Silver as a kid, and obviously when you're a kid, everything is bigger and badder than it actually is, and that includes Pokemon battles, and oh boy, does it ever include Pokemon battles. I remember my battle with Lance as a wee 6 to 7 year old kid as one of the most epic moments of my life at the time. Not only did he have the seriously overpowered Dragon type in Generation 2, but he was just like the epitome of a Pokemon champion. He had the coolest type, he had a starter Pokemon, he had like 3 Dragonites, he had everything going for him. He freaking Hyper Beam Team Rocket, for goodness sake. Like, what can you not like about Lance as a Pokemon champion? He also has that distinction that we've been mentioning throughout the video where he grows and progresses from one game to the next, where in Red, Blue, and Yellow he is the 4th Elite Four member, but in Gold and Silver he is the champion. And seeing that kind of progression in addition to all of the other traits and positives about him that I just mentioned easily makes him a top 3 choice in my opinion. Well, we are finally down to the top 2, and at number 2 we have Blue. Now, if you watched my gym leader ranking video, and if you haven't, spoiler warning because I'm about to give away the top pick, Blue was my number 1 favorite pick, so I kinda was in a struggle as to whether or not I wanted to have him be my top pick for the Champion Elite Four list as well, because of course he does appear as the champion in Red, Blue, and Yellow. And even though I decided I wanted to put him in the runner-up spot instead, he is still absolutely amongst my favorite characters ever in this category. I mean, you've heard all of the reasons before, I talked about him in the gym leader video, but not only is he your rival, not only is he constantly outdoing you, but he literally steals the title of Pokemon Champion right out from under you in the most obnoxious and arrogant and cocky way possible, and how can you not like that even though you hate it at the same time in a character? It's just a phenomenal character arc for this type of game, especially on the limited Game Boy where it was first introduced. I know it's played out and it's been talked about a lot, but I can't deny at all that I absolutely love every facet of Blue's character. I love him as a rival, I love him as a gym leader, and I love him as a champion. And the fact that he can claim all 3 of those very important roles within the Pokemon world makes him absolutely one of the coolest Pokemon characters of all time. Of course I had to put him at number 2. And last, but actually most, because she is of course taking the top spot, we have the only character I have not mentioned so far at the number 1 position, and that would be Karen. Honestly, there is not anything to not absolutely love about Karen. Number 1, she uses the Dark type, which even though there have been a couple of Elite Four members since that have also used the Dark type, she was the very first to do it. And given that we haven't had a Dark type gym yet, for her to claim that she is the first Dark type expert is a really cool title to have. On top of that, she is also the 4th Elite Four member for the Johto League, which like I said earlier carries with it a little bit of strength and intimidation and significance, traits all of which Karen fits perfectly. I also have to factor in the waifu side of things here because yes, Karen is a major waifu, and even if you don't like that factoring into the ranking of these characters, it would be doing her character a disservice if I didn't, because she's obviously designed the way she's designed in order to be waifu material. However, that is not the number 1 reason why I like Karen so much and why she is at the top position on my list. I like her so much and she is my favorite for her quote that she tells you after you beat her, and that is, "Strong Pokemon, weak Pokemon, that is only the selfish perception of people. Truly skilled trainers should try to win with their favorites." This quote right here is literally my entire motto in terms of how I judge Pokemon. One of my biggest pet peeves of all time is when people solely judge Pokemon on their competitive viability. So many people, especially in the competitive scene, will completely devalue a Pokemon and consider it trash if it cannot be used in literally the Pokemon World Championship. That is the only standard that so many people have in terms of what is a good Pokemon, and I absolutely hate that because there are so many other factors in what makes a truly awesome Pokemon. So for Karen to encapsulate this issue so perfectly with her quote, all the way back in Generation 2 no less, in addition to all of the other amazing things about her that I already mentioned, makes it a no-brainer for me in making her my absolute favorite Elite Four and Champion member that we have ever seen to this day. And there we have it, everybody. Those were all of the Elite Four and Champion members in Pokemon ranked from worst to best in my own opinion. Now, I'm sure some of you are going to agree with my list and some of you are probably going to disagree, but that is okay because like I said earlier, this is just my opinion and I definitely want to know yours as well. So give me your top 10, your top 20, or maybe even your entire list as well. I would certainly love to hear it. If you guys did enjoy the video though, be sure to give it a like and let me know down in the comments below, like I said, all your thoughts and opinions about this subject. And if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for more Pokemon content every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And if you like Pokemon music as well, consider following me on Spotify. With all of that being said though, I will be back on Tuesday for another video, so be sure to hit that notification bell so you can be notified as soon as it goes live. And until then, as always, you know I love you guys, and I will smell you guys later.